Hi, friends and new friends. Ever since 2009, it's been an uphill battle against the established fiat system. Even though cryptocurrency oftentimes offers a better user experience with less friction and low fees, people in first world countries are hesitant to try something new when what they know already works pretty well. But there are countries, such as Venezuela, where the fiat currency system is a little bit weaker and cryptocurrency senses blood, and we can push through it and establish a balance of power where cryptocurrency is used more than fiat. And nowhere is this demonstrated more than a recent article that came out about Wells Fargo eliminating the Zelle remittances and payments network from Venezuela. And we're going to talk about it today with Ernesto Contreras, Head of Business Development for Dash Core Group. I'm Christopher Carruthers, also known as Tao of Satoshi, and you're watching Cash Alternative TV. So what is Cash Alternative TV other than that catchy jingle? Well, it's a show about cryptocurrency with a focus on Dash, which aims to be a digital cash for the world, an alternative to cash, hence the name Cash Alternative TV. If that's something that you're interested in, you want to learn more about Dash, or just want to hang out with me some more, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss an episode. Now on to the topic of today's show. Well, like I said, today's episode is all about the balance of financial power in Venezuela between fiat money and the cryptocurrency, and mainly Dash because that's the currency that we focus here on Cash Alternative TV. Today, like I said, we have Ernesto Contreras, the Head of Business Development for Dash Core Group, and we're talking to him now. Welcome to the show, Ernesto.
Hi, Christopher. It's great to be here with you, and it's amazing to be sharing with all your listeners. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, so this is the first time that you've been on Cash Alternative TV. This is a show about cryptocurrency with a focus on Dash, and you work for the Dash Core Group, but I won't say too much about you. I'll let you give yourself a brief introduction and how you got into cryptocurrency and Dash.
Yeah. Well, my name is Ernesto Contreras. I work for DCG as Head of Business Development. I've been working with Dash full-time for about 2.5 years. I'm a Venezuelan. I'm an engineer. I've been working in consumer products and technology for about 16 years already. First half of my career, I worked in Venezuela in consumer products. Then I had the opportunity, and then afterwards I moved to. I heard about this thing called Bitcoin back in 2013 when I was in China by a few mining machines. We're in China, of course, and I didn't believe him, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna spend money on this video game coins. And then he was like, Brazilian guy. He's, oh, Ernesto, you're gonna remember. So few years down the road, I'm in Mexico already working in technology, and I get a call from a headhunter that says, hey, you're doing marketing. I did marketing all of my life before I came to business development. So the guys at this company, they wanted a marketing person that would come with fresh ideas because this was a one of its kind startup. So, I started researching, and this startup ended up being one of the largest, or sometimes the largest by volume, exchange in all of Latin America. So, long story short, I researched, I started working with them. And after, less than a year, I saw the opportunity of working with Dash. And at this exchange, I was doing marketing. But Dash was looking for a person that would help them grow in Latin America. And, that's something that I always wanted to do, because having the view of growing a new industry or a new technology and, basically building solutions that do not exist was so exciting. And then I started learning more about Dash, the DAO, how there's all these different teams that might not be working side by side and, knowing what everybody's doing, but they're all working with the same goal of growing the adoption of Dash and, growing the ecosystem. It's just been mind blowing, and it's amazing to be here. And it's funny because, 2.5 years just went by with the blink of an eye. And,
Awesome.
starting this year, I began, taking responsibilities for the whole business development side. So it's been great.
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned the DAO. It kind of segues into my next topic that I wanted to talk about. I want to go over a little bit of Dash's history in Venezuela, because we often see it in the headlines. We often see a lot of things that are going on in Venezuela, a lot of hard work being done and a lot of results. But I want to go over like a brief history, if you could comment on these things. So were you involved with Eugenia Alcala and Dash Venezuela when they first started doing those conferences back in the day?
Not at all. I
No?
wish I had,
Okay.
but not at all. Like when I was interviewing for Dash, I started researching and seeing that there was this group making a lot of noise and a lot of great things, and there was all this sounds going on about Venezuela, and that's when I started discovering what a DAO was, because I was like, wait, how is this group doing all these big things, but they're not related to this other team that I'm interviewing for? And then there's these other guys that are called Cash Alternative, that they're in the US, but they're not part of Venezuela, part of it. So I started, getting my head around what was a DAO. And, a few weeks later or a few months later, I met Eugenia, and I met Alejandro and Lorenzo, and I met Joanna, and I met all the other teams that are, living around Venezuela. And again, everyone that works in Dash, for the good, they're great people. And I think they've all done great things, and, learning along the way. And it's been amazing to help them do things, let them help me do things, and everyone's, growing along the way. So that's really cool.
Yeah, so if any viewers out there are new to Dash and cryptocurrency in general, like Dash is very unique in the industry because we have a split block reward. We have 45% going to the miners, 45% going to the masternodes, and 10% going to a decentralized treasury that comes straight out of the blockchain. And it's voted on by masternodes around the world. And this is something that's unique to Dash because there's no middleman. If a project is voted in, it's paid directly from the blockchain. And you've been you're with Dash Core Group, which is our biggest contractor, and they get paid straight from the blockchain. So it's very interesting. So I want to move on to some other DAOs that like the sub DAOs that have been working in Venezuela, because you guys have been doing a really good job. Do you have any comments about Dash Latam?
This is a team that used to work in Colombia and then tried to work in other places. I think one of the learnings that I've had in Dash is that when a team starts working in different geographies, it loses a touch with the on-the-ground situation. So what I've learned is that the best examples are when a team works locally, because you can get the contact with the merchants that are right next to you, with the stores that are around the corner and that are close. So one of my big learnings from that is that when there's different teams, even if they overlap a little bit, that works better than just having one huge team trying to do everything. So I think that's better for Dash, and that's something that is really good that it's happening again, because in Venezuela again, some of the older members started to work on their own teams, and some members that had not approached the DAO before, like the Dash Mall, have started doing that. So having a bunch of teams restart the ecosystem after there was one team trying to do everything, I think is better for Dash overall over the long term.
Yeah, we definitely have a big presence in Venezuela. And it's funny that you mentioned Dash Mall parking. I completely forgot about that one. Can you tell us a little bit about what they're trying to accomplish and what their initial goal was and what they're doing at the present time?
Yeah, this is a very interesting team, and one that I know very well because I had been in contact with them. Like a big part of my goal is how can I enable different teams to work together and cooperate, so one can do a work that complements the other, and they can align with also what I'm doing. So I have calls with most of, or probably all, the teams that are working in Latin America, and sometimes we cooperate a lot, other times we don't cooperate. Only maybe one time we did not cooperate. But with Joanna, we had been in touch for some time, and we had discussed some opportunities that were there, and they were looking at different things. One moment that they had the mall opportunity come up, and that was something that we at DCG wanted to foster. We wanted to see what happens when you have a closed ecosystem where there is use of Dash and you can sell Dash at the entrance for something. So the mall had a perfect use case because people are lining up for 20, 30, 60 minutes to pay their parking tickets. And in Venezuela, because of cash scarcity, there is probably one point of sale machine per mall. So if you're going to pay with your debit card, you must make a line in that one entrance or exit, actually, so you can pay with your thing and then go out. But there's probably 5 or 6 exits in almost every mall. So what they did, they had this opportunity with a mall that was close to them because they met them in a conference. And they said, hey, we have this pilot. Can you help us? So we worked together. We put them together with some people that had the technology. We funded a little bit of money for them to buy T-shirts and to buy stickers. And, that just took a life on its own. So basically what they do, they go to malls that have this problem. They help them enable Dash payments in all of the exits. And they have a little stand where they sell the Dash. So you go and you buy, $1, $0.50 worth of Dash. And then when you want to leave, you can now just use any of the six exits because you scan the QR code and you're ready to go. So that started as a parking lot experiment. But then many of the merchants, they were like, hey, I also want to take Dash because I don't want people to wait in line and here. And then the users, they said, well, now I want to buy Dash. So they started putting them together with some people that were selling Dash peer-to-peer. And, it started growing. Yesterday, I was on a webinar with them. Right now, they have about 6 malls in Merida. They just onboarded a large app that is doing delivery, that is serving about 200 stores in all of Merida. And, what started as how can we solve one parking lot problem right now serves literally all of one mid-sized city in Venezuela. So it's a very nice experiment. It shows that Dash can help to solve some of the problems that exist in Venezuela. And I'll talk more about that later.
Sure.
And it's a really, really cool showcase on how the DAO can foster and, grow teams from zero, how some of these teams can cooperate on different things, and how everything just benefits not only Dash as a coin and in terms of adoption, but it's solving people's problem. And that is, how we're actually going to get use.
Okay, so cryptocurrency faces some challenges in Venezuela, kind of the way we're facing challenges here trying to do this interview. Sometimes the internet is not so good in Venezuela. So there's another team that was funded by the Dash DAO called Dash Text, and you can use it without even any internet service. So can you comment a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So, well, something I didn't tell you, I came to Venezuela for business, for working with Dash in the last week of February. So I was supposed to leave on the 16th, and then COVID hit, and the country's on lockdown ever since. So I've been here for about 4 months. I'm lucky that my parents live here, so I've been staying at my parents for the past 4 months, and I've lived firsthand all the problems that the country has. Basically, infrastructure is not working well, and we have internet problems, and then power outages. Actually, last week we were supposed to have this interview, and there was no electricity in the whole day in my city. So if you add that to the problems of hyperinflation, which means the largest bill of Venezuelan money, of bolivars, is worth $0.25. So if you want to go and pay a burger, which costs about 1 million bolivars, you need to divide that by 50,000. So that's a bunch of banknotes, which you cannot get from the bank because they're scarce. And, that creates a lot of problems. Plus, the banking infrastructure is not always good. So it has improved in the past years, but it's still, you can get decline your card even though you have money and it's working. So all of this creates a frame where a solution that is outside of a system can work perfectly. With dash text in particular, you do not need great internet. Actually, you only need some phone signal. So even when some things fail, you can still send an SMS and have your whatever paid. So dash text has the is different from other services around the world because it was built from a place where it's used. So it's very different when you're making something in Silicon Valley and you're saying, oh, imagine if this were the case and if we had this problem. These guys had to build it from the ground up. So that is a great solution. It's still on the early stages of being deployed, and they're always innovating. I know that they started with the charity, and then they found that it can be used into some points of sale. It's actually integrated with Crypto Buyer. That's another partner of ours, and you can literally send an SMS to pay for your clothes in the largest retail in Venezuela. Actually, I went there a few weeks ago when I bought clothes, because remember, I was supposed to be here for 2.5 weeks, and it's been 4 months, so my clothes are almost all destroyed. So I went to Traki and I bought my things with Dash, and I sometimes I try to pay with different mechanisms so I can see how it works, and it works. Just like every other technology, when you start deploying it, you start finding bugs and you start finding some use cases where it doesn't work perfectly. And I know that Dash Text has had their bugs, but it's definitely a great solution, and it's really good to have them be part of Dash.
Perfect. So the ecosystem is growing by leaps and bounds there in Venezuela. And if you don't believe it, do your own research and figure it out, because we got hard workers such as Ernesto here and all the different teams in Latin America and Venezuela that are doing great work. But we're going to wrap up this segment. I'm going to give you a chance to blow your own horn and say what is it that you've been up to the last little while with Dash Core Group and everything that you guys are accomplishing, or kind of business development you guys are going for in Venezuela right now.
Yeah, thanks. So, basically what we've learned is that as opposed to what happens in other countries without financial problems, in Venezuela, we get accepted. We knock on doors and the doors will open. So for about a year now, we have been speaking with the largest point of sale provider in the country. That company is called Megasoft. So for technical and legal reasons, they could not integrate directly into Dash, but they integrated with Crypto Buyer. So a few weeks ago, that was announced, and that kind of went under the radar. But what that means is that about 20,000 of the largest brick and mortar stores in a place where people are willing to accept cryptocurrencies have the possibility of being turned on. So we will start in the near term, probably for the rest of this year and during the 2021, we will start seeing some larger integrations take place. That is actually the reason why I stayed here, because that announcement was going to happen on the Monday when the country was locked down. So I was going to go to Caracas and be during that announcement, but that is still work in progress. So in a nutshell, what I'm doing and what we are and BCG are doing in Venezuela is we're working with large, meaningful integrations, and we're connecting them to the rest of the world where there's a lot of Venezuelans. So it's not only how can I get a supermarket accepting Dash, it's also how can I explain to the Venezuelans that are in the US or in Europe or in Mexico that there's this other opportunity to send money through free internet money that cannot get closed down, that works without times or any boundaries, and that you can use to pay the exact amount that you need. So that's what we're working on. Just like anything else, when you're working on bigger projects, they tend to be slower than getting the kiosk around the corner. But these things are starting to get aligned and to get in place. So I hope that during the rest of the quarter we will have something, and then Q3 will have more of this great news. And this is all building up to be a great ecosystem because it's solving problems for the people.
Yeah, it's something where you say if you use Dash, you like Dash. Once you get into the ecosystem and have it accepted in multiple places and have multiple people using it, it's very frictionless. There's no friction involved whatsoever. You send and it's there. You send and it's there. Especially with Dash, where you can send and send again and keep sending with the same input, and you don't have to worry about waiting for confirmations because of chain locks. So if people get involved with Dash, get involved with cryptocurrency, they see how easy it is. It's just a matter of getting that adoption. But in first world countries such as the United States and Canada, there's a lot of hesitation because we have already banking systems that work fairly well. But that's where you in Venezuela that have a really, really pressing need for it, have that more people willingness to try new things, right?
Yeah, definitely. And, I think there would be a lot more people using Dash if they used it. The problem with crypto is that you have a bunch of people and a bunch of maximalists screaming about how great their coin is, but they really don't use it. When you start using it, you see that for real uses, for buying and transferring wealth, and it doesn't work as well. I'm in these past 4 months, I've had the privilege of I get paid in Dash, so I still have bills that I need to pay in Mexico. I want to pay things here in Venezuela with bolivars, and I want to save some money in dollars. So what I've done is I've had to move my money in between all of these services because, for example, the peso was depreciated heavily a few months ago when the pandemic started. So I didn't want to keep my money in pesos. I could not keep it in bolivars, and I don't keep it all in crypto because crypto is volatile as well. So that's when I started using some of the dollars, and I used my Uphold account. And when you start seeing that there is this possibility, it actually gives you freedom because I'm not stuck with one coin that the government decides to make it lose its value. Now I have all of this, and the reason I'm saying this is in between all of the tens of transactions that I've made in these 4 months, one time I always use either Dash through a peer-to-peer Venezuelan exchange or Ethereum through local cryptos. So they're fairly fast, they're very good, they're safe, and they have good liquidity. But for this one transaction that I could not make in any of this, I had to go to local Bitcoin. So I had to change some Dash for Bitcoin and then deposit it into local Bitcoin. And by the time my money was there was a small price fluctuation in the price of bolivars to Bitcoin. So the person I was buying the dollars from was, I think, like $6 short because of the price fluctuation or my calculation. So then I, found $6 other that I had on another exchange, and I sent it. But I didn't realize that this other exchange takes 5 confirmations for sending my Bitcoin. So then when it got to the final destination, it was like an hour later, price had changed again. And I just called the guy that I was buying the dollars from and say, hey man, just take my $295 and I'll give you the $5 again in some other way because I cannot wait anymore. So when you have that user experience and then you go and you use Dash or something else that does the work, it's still decentralized, it's borderless, but it takes, let's say, let's exaggerate and say it takes a minute. When you compare a minute to an hour, hour and a half, you're like, hey, this is actually something that works. So that's the kind of experiences you get by using it. And you know it very well because I know you actually use crypto. So that's the message that I'm sharing with people. If you like this industry, try to use it. And even if you don't like the other coins, at least tell the companies that are building on the coin you like what are the problems so they can make it better. because money will be good only if you can use it. Storing it and waiting or praying for a high price is not the best use case for money.
Yeah, it's without the risk of sounding elitist. Sometimes I feel like we're fighting against fiat, and we're also fighting against Bitcoin, because we're fighting against fiat because people are hesitant to try a new technology. They're stuck in their ways. They know what they know, and then we're also kind of fighting against Bitcoin because Bitcoin doesn't work properly. So if somebody's coming in new to cryptocurrency, and Bitcoin is their first experience with cryptocurrency, they're going to think, well, this whole thing is stupid. How am I going to wait an hour for a transaction? And then we have to go and convince them that say, well, you tried Bitcoin, now try Dash, because Dash actually works. So it's kind of, we're fighting a battle on two fronts.
Yeah. And I think, that battle, it's solved by going into places where people actually have a problem to solve. So that's why I'm so in love with Dash. And that's why I think we're doing the right thing, because we're looking to solve problems that already exist. The fairness aside, the banking system in the US works. You can make your transaction. You're not losing value by the day. Just to give you a reference, when I got here, the dollar was at about 70,000 bolivars per unit. And today it's at 205,000 bolivars per unit. So, when you have the local money losing value so fast, it's a totally different experience than not having it lose value. And when you go to places where there's actually a problem and you show a potential solution, then all that philosophical discussion gets put aside, because people on the streets, they don't care about a lot of things. They just want something that works so they can get on with their lives. And that is, the findings and the work that we're having in Venezuela and in other places where there's actually a need for better money. You said it, better money for a better life, right?
Yeah, better money for a better future. And getting closer every day. Bye for now. No, yeah, that's basically what my tagline is. But what was I going to say now? You made me lose my train of thought when you said that.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Oh, yeah. So we're going to segue into the main topic of the conversation, which is the headline of this video is a balance of financial power in Venezuela. So it's kind of like the decline of fiat money and the rise of cryptocurrency. And eventually we're going to hit that equilibrium and crypto is going to rise up above fiat. And nowhere is that more apparent than in this latest story that you and I are going to talk about now. Where you guys received an email from Wells Fargo and their Zelle service saying that they were no longer going to service Venezuelans for remittances to various countries. And can you describe a little bit about what happened and what that email that you received had in it?
Yeah, well, a large group of users of Wells Fargo woke up a few days ago to an email that says, we will stop servicing your account with Zelle on the 26th of the month. Because of, it didn't say why, it just said that it was going to be stopped. So it means that from the 27th onwards, these people will continue to have their money on their account, but they will not be able to move it. And the reason why that's happening, or why would somebody in Venezuela have an account in the US, is because of everything that I described. The Bolivar is not working properly. Everyone outside of the US, almost everyone sees the dollar as the standard. So if you're, doing well in another country, you probably open up an account in the US or in an US denominated account. So a small percentage of the population in Venezuela made the flight either to the US or somewhere else, and they opened up accounts in dollars. So what started happening is a few years ago, when hyperinflation started hitting the country and when the infrastructure stopped working, people started making transactions in bank accounts. So a very common example is, let's say that you have a friend in Venezuela and this person wants to buy something. So buy something from me. So that person would call you and say, hey, Christopher, can you send $100 to Ernesto, and I'll pay you later because you know where whatever, and I'll see you in December. So you would send your money from your bank account using Zelle to my account, and I would give this person the good. So that is a very typical transaction that happens in Venezuela, and that is the reason why some Venezuelans are using Zelle. There's not public numbers, but I would imagine that, you know, something around single-digit percentage of the population probably have bank accounts in the U.S. And, you know, they started using it, and some of them would probably allow a friend to make a payment or to receive a payment in that account. And that is one of the reasons why probably Zelle doesn't like it, because this is a product that was developed for being used in the US and for non-commercial uses. So actually what happens now is, if you go to many supermarkets, especially on the high-end parts of town, you would see that you can pay with Zelle. Or if you go to Instagram, there's many people selling lots of things there, and they take payments in Zelle. But basically what happens is they want to get to that precious dollar, and Zelle is one way of getting to it. So the banks announced, Wells Fargo announced that they were going to stop servicing some Venezuelans, and the fear is that it might roll over to any other banks. Nobody knows.
So do you think it might have something to do also with the United States embargoes on Venezuela?
Oh, definitely. It's something that banks have to be careful about. You know, there's sanctions. The banks run their KYCs and stuff, but I'm sure that their compliance officers are looking into the transactions and, you know, probably preoccupied because they have to comply with US laws. So just like everything with the financial sector, they will not disclose exactly why. They will just tell you, hey, you have your money here, but you cannot use it this way. So, I mean, that's the way it works.
All right, so that's a silver lining for cryptocurrencies, especially payment cryptocurrencies like Dash, because cryptocurrencies are borderless, right? So it's something that you could use for Zelle, you can also use for cryptocurrency. And that's where we come in, right?
Exactly. So, you know, what we've been working on for the past years, and what has become a very, very transparent for everyone, is that you cannot rely only on one method. That is why Dash has such acceptance in Venezuela. There has been more than 2,500 merchants who have been accepting Dash, and right now there's about 1,000 of them that are brick and mortar and that have been validated. And the reason is that, you know, they understand that one day the traditional payment networks might not work. They understand that, you know, having dollar, by the way, I didn't mention it clearly, but I want to make it very transparent for everyone. You can pay with dollars at every place in Venezuela. This is very unique because, for example, I live in Mexico, and if I go with a $20 bill anywhere that is not in the airport, I cannot pay with it. People won't take it. It's not illegal, but it's just like, they're like, hey, give me pesos. I don't care about this. In Venezuela right now, you can actually go to any place and pay with dollars. As a matter of fact, for, I would say, 99% of the places I visit, the unit of account is dollars. So the problem for a merchant is that cards might not work. Having everything in cash is not comfortable or is not safe. And all these other electronic means, they're not made for Venezuelans. So when you expose them to Dash and other cryptos, they're like, oh, this is cool. This can work. And that's why, you know, we've gotten, everybody talks about the chicken and egg problem, but Dash, you know, we solved, I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg. We already found a way of getting large amounts of places to accept cryptocurrency. And now we're working on, you know, showing the other part, how to pay with it. And that is, you know, the path forward. You know, people understand that their money, if it's digital, it's not always it's easy to get access to because only a small percentage of the population can go to the US and open bank accounts. And even after you go through all those hurdles, it can get shut down. So people are open to other means, and digital dollar is one of the big things that people want. And within that, using cryptocurrency is a perfect solution as well, especially those cryptos that have low fees, because you don't want to pay. For example, a few days ago, I bought breakfast for my family and for some friends, and I paid about $9. If I have to pay a $1 or $2 transaction fee, it doesn't make sense. But if I pay, less than a cent, it makes sense for me to pay with Dash. So that's what we're doing, and I'm not so happy in Valencia, which is the city I stay with. There are not too many places to spend Dash in directly. There's a lot in Caracas, but not in Valencia. But here in Valencia, like I said, I went and I bought some clothes. I paid about $52, and the fee was almost zero. So it makes sense to use crypto in those cases. And that is what we're seeing in Venezuela.
Yeah, the fees are definitely an issue as well. Yeah, I mean, you got lack of friction, you got fees, you got borderless. I mean, why are people not using crypto? It feels like we have to scream it from the rooftops. Hello, we're over here. It's just a matter of time. It's like we're pushing against this big, huge rock, and eventually it's going to just go, and we're going to push it down the hill. But let's talk a little bit about the regulatory climate in Venezuela. I've seen some videos with President Maduro. He was touring an open house for cryptocurrency, and he was making comments and statements about the petro and stuff like that. But what's the current regulatory climate for cryptocurrencies in Venezuela right now?
Yeah, this is actually a shocker for some people outside. There is a law that states what crypto can and cannot do, and of course, the government put this law out there when they created they announced their own crypto, but it relates to every cryptocurrency. So there is a law that governs cryptocurrency. There is a secondary law that tells people that are accepting crypto how they need to manage that from the accounting point of view. And there is a regulatory entity that people that have or businesses that have questions on whether what they're doing is correct or incorrect, they can go to. So actually there's a part of the ecosystem in Venezuela, which I always say is the most modern in terms of cryptocurrency accepted in the world. Part of this ecosystem includes a regulatory framework which people can go to and check if what they're doing is implied. And the result is what we're seeing. It's not only merchants like Burger King, like the largest department store, and many things that are on the pipeline that I'm really excited that I wish I could say right now. But all these people are starting to accept it, but also banks started. There was a tweet a few months ago from a bank called BOD that they created a department for cryptocurrency, which means that if you're a crypto business and you want to do business with this bank, at least now you have somebody that you want to contact inside of the bank, and that person will tell you, oh, we can do this, we cannot do this, which is something that you do not have in other parts of the world. If you want to work with crypto, let's say in Colombia or Chile or in many parts of Europe, many of the banks, they will say, I don't know what this is. I don't know how, from a regulatory point of view, take it. So, all of these parts of the ecosystem add up to Venezuela having the opportunity to solve many of the problems through crypto.
All right, this has been a fascinating conversation of getting a glimpse into what's life like down in Venezuela for cryptocurrency and Dash in general. So we have Ernesto Contreras with us today. It's the Business Development Manager for Latin America. Happy to have you on the show. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to take the floor and talk about anything you might want to talk about before we wrap things up.
Yeah, well, what I want to share is that, first of all, in Venezuela, things are very complicated. So when you hear somebody's side of the story, it's always interesting to learn what they are seeing, because there's many different realities that are happening at the same time. Like yesterday, I went to a supermarket, and it was a very, very beautiful high-end supermarket in a nice part of town. But then later, I went to downtown, and you can see a lot of people that are broke and that do not have enough money to eat. So in Venezuela, you will see many sides of the same coin, and that's why it is hard for somebody that is outside to understand, hey, how is this guy talking about cryptocurrency in a place where there's people without food? So there's everything, just like every country in financial distress, there's a big wide divide between the haves and the have-nots. But still, this creates a lot of problems that crypto can solve. So Venezuela is a unique use case for cryptocurrencies. It's part of a larger ecosystem that is taking place in Latin America. And for those places that are well off, I think they can start building solutions and see how they can fit into this market. And that's what we're seeing with Dash, and that's what we're building. How can you partner with the companies that are in places that are well off and serve some of those solutions for places where they're needed, test them, tweak them, make them grow, and then see how you can, reverse engineer that and adapt it to quote unquote stable markets, because COVID just changed everything for us. So I think, cryptocurrency will continue to grow. It will grow alongside the rest of the economy, and it will provide people the option to have a better way of moving money. And I always say that, freedom is having more options for you to choose from. And I'm really happy to be part of Dash that is, building freedom, building options for people that need it in places that are distressed, and also in places that are, doing financially okay, because you will find many use cases. So hopefully we'll find that one use case that will drive a lot of transactions and a lot of users. And I really, really wish that I'll be there to see it firsthand and seeing with the rest of the Dash teams in Venezuela, in Latin America, and around the world.
Yeah, I think you and I are definitely on the same wavelength, and I'm very happy that I waited to have this interview, because it's been fascinating, been very informative of how Venezuela goes. I think in crypto, there's kind of like a scale, either you're in it for the money or you're in it to change the world. And I kind of fall more towards in it to change the world type of thing. I might have at the beginning been in it for the money, I'll be honest. But as I've been around cryptocurrency for a while, it's changed to becoming more about changing the world. And when I see stuff like this and I hear about Venezuela's successes in cryptocurrency, it makes me really have a good faith in the future. So I'm happy you joined us. If somebody wants to contact you outside of this interview, they want to have a question for you or want to maybe offer you an idea or anything like that, how do they get a hold of you?
Of course, I'm very active on Twitter. You can find me at Ernesto Contreras, and I have the same handle on Instagram. So you can hit me up there, and I'll reply within a few minutes, and we can chat. I'm very open to, just chatting a bit, exchanging ideas. You can agree with everything I say or disagree. That's great. And, I'll be around the Dash Discord. Well, I haven't logged in because my 2FA is in Mexico, but I will eventually get back to it. And, around the Dash channels and Twitter, Instagram are the best ways to contact me.
Perfect. So I wish you the best of luck with Dash Core Group, and I'll be anxiously awaiting those new integrations that you might have coming through the pipeline.
Yeah. We'll definitely speak very highly of them. And, hopefully the first one will be in a few weeks, and then we'll have more a long time. But yeah, we have great stuff coming up.
All right. Until the next time, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me. It's
Bye
a pleasure. Bye.
Cheers. Well, that was my interview with Ernesto Contreras. I was very happy to interview him. It was a great interview. He had lots of information about Venezuela and what's happening in cryptocurrency and what Dash is accomplishing down there. And I'm looking forward to bigger things in the future from this man. He's very intelligent and well-spoken. Good job, Ernesto. Well, that's it for me today. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and click the bell if you want to see more from me in Cash Alternative TV episodes. Until next time, remember, Dash is a better money for a better future. And that future is getting closer every day. Bye for now.